All right, Nick, let's talk about the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have been an exciting young team for a long time now. The last year or so has been very, very impressive, but there's one guy in particular who's been really impressive this training camp and has actually gotten a lot of starting reps. I'm Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, there's been one guy throughout training camp who's really impressed and kind of surprised a lot of people that he has gotten most of the starting reps on the defensive line. Let's get into this article and then we can talk more about it on the other side. This, of course, from over on Acme Packing Company. It says, while it was always assumed that three-time Pro Bowler Kenny Clark, listed at a kind 314 pounds, was going to start on the defensive line this year, the upset of camp has been that it's TJ Slayton, listed at 330 pounds, and not Devontae Wyatt, listed at 304 pounds, who is seeing starting reps next to Clark. Through 11 Packers training camp practices, the duo of Slayton and Clark has been the starting duo for the day 9 times. The exceptions were one practice where Wyatt, a former first round pick, got the nod over Slayton, and another where Clark took a veteran rest day. This is really interesting, and don't have to take my word for it. We have the Packers depth chart here as well. And as you can see, Slayton is the starter listed right next to Kenny Clark. You can see him right there, number 93 on the depth chart. Nick, I'm curious what your thoughts are. This is really interesting. So, Packers fans, before we get to Nick, I want to know in the comment section below, we're talking preseason. We're about to see some preseason football here, and there's been some surprising guys. So, let us know, who are you the most excited to see in preseason? Is there anyone that you really want to see get to finally see them hit the field against another team, see what they're made of? Let us know in the comment section below. And while you're there, check out the description below the video. We've got a really great recommended reading book for you. It is none other than Playmakers by Mike Florio. It's the book we've been recommending all season, and we're still recommending it today. Has a great dive into the ins and outs of the NFL. So if you want to check it out, it'll really help us out. Check out our Amazon affiliate link in the description below the video. It helps us and it costs you absolutely nothing. So if you're interested in getting the book, check it out in the description below the video. But Nick, what are your thoughts on the surprise starting reps for Slayton?
So when you first the top line, the top story, right? First round pick not earning starting reps. But when you actually dig deep and think about it a little bit more, it makes sense. When you look at Wyatt, he's much more a disruptor as a defensive tackle, much more of a, get after the quarterback. He's much more of a not traditional run stuffing kind of guy, right? I know he's a big guy, 300 plus pounds, but you look at Slayton, he is traditionally 6'5", 330. He is a space eater, the classic old school interior defensive lineman that you put into the game to stop the run. And if you look at the Packers competition, their top competition in the NFC North, last season, 2 of the top 5 rushing teams in the National Football League were NFC North opponents, talking about the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears, right? The Lions are going to be pretty good again this year. I think we all understand this. And the Bears are probably going to be better this year with the addition of Caleb Williams. They're probably going to have, almost by default, a better passing game. So again, it's going to be much tougher for the Green Bay Packers in terms of defensive matchups. They got to be good against the run. They got to be physical. They got to be tough. They got to be big. And this is where it's very tactical by new defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley. We're seeing the entire NFL right now, basically over the past 5 years or so, go small. Everyone's trying to go small. Everyone's trying to figure out, okay, maybe just 2 linebackers on the field, maybe just 1 linebacker and 1 safety, right? Every single offense at minimum now has 3 wide receivers on the field at all times. A lot of them have 4 most of the time. Defenses have gotten really small. And when teams can run the ball well, like the Lions, like the Bears, like other competition in the NFC, like the San Francisco 49ers, they can absolutely decimate those smaller defenses. Look at what the Packers did, for example, to the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs. You look at a team like the Detroit Lions making a deep playoff run. You look at the 49ers, of course, going all the way to the Super Bowl. The NFC, the best teams in the NFC, are all about running the football. And in order to stop them, you've got to be big above all else. It's not about getting after the passer as much as it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago when it comes to those interior defensive linemen. You got to be big, you got to take up space, and you got to get teams in 2nd and 9. If you can do that, then you can unleash the Garys, the Van Nesses, the Carl Brooks, and get after the quarterback, right? But if you don't get to that 2nd and 9, it doesn't matter. And Packers fans, you proved it, right? This is what the formula you created when you took Micah Parsons and that Cowboys pass rush out of the playoff game in Dallas last year, when you absolutely obliterated the Cowboys on the ground, running the football and then play action on top of it, right? You completely took Micah Parsons, one of the great defensive players and a phenomenal pass rusher, completely out of the equation. Teams now are going to see that. Teams are seeing the strategy and they say, okay, we got to find a way to stop the run. We have to let our pass rushers get to a pass rush opportunity. And that's exactly what the Packers are doing here by having Slayton be the starter. I think it's a really smart move. I get why it's surprising in terms of a headline kind of thing, but I give Hafley a lot of credit. I think this is a great move, making Slayton the starter right now.
Yeah, Nick, and you speak of Hafley, we speak about new defensive coordinator in here, a guy that's new to the team, trying to make impressions with everybody. And sometimes I feel like it would be easy, first round pick versus fifth round pick. Get the first round guy in there. He's disruptive. He does a lot of really good stuff. He's a good player. We're not saying that he's not. But it's very interesting, and I really like that he was like, it doesn't really fit the scheme I'm trying to run to have this guy in here. Actually, this fifth round pick, Slayton, he fits my scheme pretty well, and I think he's going to be a solid player for me there. So I'm going to put him in there instead. I really like that Hafley's coming in here. He's not really just going to be a yes man. He's not going to be a guy that's going to put in, a first round pick for first round pick's sake. This is a guy who's going to pick the best players on this roster that fit his scheme the best. And I think in today's NFL, sometimes coaches aren't doing that. It's a kind of a rarity nowadays. We see the better teams are the teams that are like, hey, this person fits our scheme the best. They're able to do the most for us. So let's have them start. It's not always about, pedigree and draft pick status and those kind of things. So I really props to Hafley. I'm really impressed by what he's doing so far. And I think we're going to see a very much improved Green Bay Packers defense hit the field this fall.
And there is room for improvement. They finished 18th against the run last year, again, according to PFF. And look, don't take our word for it in terms of what Wyatt brings to the table. If you look at PFF last year, look at his numbers as a pass rusher, phenomenal, 80 plus. That's great. As a run defender, 46. That's terrible, right? And this doesn't mean Wyatt's not going to play. It means that Hafley's going to use him in pass rush situations, put him in situations to be successful, and rely on Slayton once again to get those tough NFC rivals that can run the football, the 49ers, right? Another potential playoff matchup. When you look in the division, of course, you look at the Lions, you look at the Bears, getting those teams to 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9. That's why Slayton's going to be the starter. I think this is, I know why it's a surprising move because a lot of people didn't see it coming, but I think it's a really smart move right here by the new Packers DC.